Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today I want to show you guys how I relocated my battery into the trunk, so let's go ahead and hop right into that. So here's kind of the setup I got going right now. Battery's sitting right here. I cracked my terminal last time just because, well, I lost this bolt and I put a bigger one on, and yeah, it cracked. But that's getting replaced. Anyways, that's where the battery sits. I did tell you guys I was washing my car, but I washed it, rolled it in here all wet, got windy, and got dust all over this thing. So honestly, it looks worse than it did before. Another little side project I'm working on. So this is the intake piping that came with the Tsx racing kit. I think this is a 3-inch pipe, but that's small for my inlet. That's a 4-inch. Here's the old Tsx racing turbo. Anyways, reason being, I want to be able to have a bung right here for the intake side. I want to run my PCV valve into that. I know a lot of people block it off, but I think it'd be a good idea to run it into here. That way it can always be under vacuum. We'll see. Might not work, but I got a piece of intake here. This is actually the engine intake. I think I paid like $333 for it. It's the one that goes down low. Shoot, years ago for my black automatic TSX, and here I am whacking it up. But what I think I'm going to do is run a small coupler on it. Probably cut it pretty tight right here too, and then just run my little stubby air filter on it, just so I have one bung. I've been kind of looking on the internet for a 4-inch piece of pipe with a welded bung on it. I guess I might have been looking in the wrong spots, but I haven't been able to find anything relevantly close to 4 inches that would work for what I need. If you guys know any sites or anything could help me out, go ahead, drop that below. That would be pretty awesome. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good idea to be able to have vacuum on your PCV valve. To be always sucking the crankcase pressure out. But anyways, let's go ahead and hop into what you guys are going to need today. So obviously you're going to need your positive cable. I went with 4 gauge and I did about 12 feet, but I think you're going to need a little bit more than that. You could go bigger, like a 2 or a 3. 4 is just the smallest you want to go. And it's been working for me just fine. You're going to probably need one of these guys, and I'll show you here in a second why. Obviously you're going to need some terminal ends. This one's kind of nice because you got some options to run some wire off the side, or just get yourself a little, regular one like that. But that's kind of up to you. So get yourself some wire, some terminal ends, and you need one of these. So first thing on the agenda to take off would be your battery. So go ahead and remove your terminals. You can completely remove your ground right there. Get that disconnected. Take these two 10mm bolts off, pull this cover out, and just remove your battery out of there. And then there's a tray right there. It's got 2 bolts right here and then 2 bolts on the bottom. We're going to be removing this entire tray, and then once that's out of your way, it'll free up quite a bit of room. Also, what I did on mine, and you don't have to, you can leave this plastic piece on, but I went ahead and pulled these tabs apart and got this plastic piece out. So next thing, you want to figure out which way you want to run your cable. and I have mine running right there. It's following my fuel line all the way along the frame of the car. If you do decide to go this route, you have to make sure your cable is secured really tight. You don't want it at any pinch point. If there's any sharp metal or anything, keep it away from that. What I did was the vent tube and the stock feed line, they're two hard lines. I just zip tied it to that, and I tried tucking my cable on top of them as best as I could, just so it's not hanging under them in case I ever hit a bump or a rock. Don't scrape it. And it's almost following my fuel line. The fuel line comes over there, and instead of coming up right there, I just went around the tank and into this grommet. Your car should have one already. Obviously you're gonna have to remove all of these interior. So most of you guys probably know how this comes off. You don't have to unscrew this all the way. You just loosen it and twist it at the bottom, and it comes off. Same thing with the other side. And then this entire thing is free. Careful not to touch your ends. So that's how I have mine ran. What I would recommend is actually going through your firewall, and you might have to drill a hole or use an existing one, but mine's all taken up. You see right there, I've got my vacuum line coming into there for my boost controller, and a couple power lines for my gauges. The reason for that, you're going to keep it away from under the car. You can run it, along the plastics here under the carpet, kind of like an amp wire. Just keep following it this way, up under all of this, and back into your trunk. That's what I would recommend. I didn't go that route. But here's my grommet right here. I just put a slit through it, cut out a hole big enough for the wire, and put it in so I don't have any rubbing against any sharp metal. So once you figure out which way you're running your cable, you've got your cable in. At this point we're looking for a little bit of extra cable on either side, depending on where you want to set up your tray. I've got mine sitting right here. You could mount your battery right here. They sell different trays, but regardless, this tray is going to have to get removed if you're relocating your battery. There's just no need for it. No need for it in the front. So I utilized it, and I bolted it in right here. You can drill yourself a hole right here, just right on the edge of where the spare tire fits. And right under there is your exhaust, and then there's a heat shield. If you get your exhaust out of the way and remove your heat shield, you go ahead and punch 2 holes through. There's enough room for you to get under there with a wrench and a nut, and you can put whatever bolts you want to. I think I went with just 2 10mm off of the car, just because I have an abundance of them. And then on the bottom there's two more holes, and you can do the same thing. There's plenty of room for you to drill through. On the bottom of them, just run a little bit of silicone, just so you keep all the moisture out. And yeah, you just right here, about 2 feet of cable is all I needed coming from that hole. So get your battery plate secured, whether you're going with the OEM one or an aftermarket one. So next thing you want to do is you want to figure out where you're going to put your ground, and I actually utilized the OEM one. You guys can see it's all tore up pretty bad, and I just went right into the frame of the car right here. I took a grinder, cleaned the paint off, drilled a hole through, and ran a bolt on the other side and mounted it down. So you could never go wrong with adding too much ground. Honestly, I could probably run a second one and just run it on here. You got, you know, them smaller cable looking grounds. I could run like another one here. So far, 2 years running this, I've had no issues whatsoever with, you know, anything catching on fire, my battery draining, no shorts. But, you know, that's what fire extinguishers are for. So at this point, you've got your plate mounted. You could already have your battery sitting on it. You could get your ground mounted. So get your terminal end on. Don't go with this one. This is a piece of junk. I bought it at AutoZone and it cracked on me, so I'm going to be ordering some new ones. But it's kind of least of my worries right now. I don't even have a motor in the car. But go ahead and get your terminal ends on. Don't connect your battery yet. Just get it all ready. You have your lengths and everything. You know, kind of sitting nice and clean. And we're going to go work on the front. So another thing you guys can do is run an inline fuse coming out of your battery. Obviously this is going to be your main source of power. So if you get an inline fuse here, anything ever goes wrong, that'll blow. I don't have one, but you know, that's up to you whether or not you guys want to get one in. This is the battery I have. It's not the original Tsx one, obviously. 800 cold cranking amps. So yeah, that's what I went with. So this part right here, some of you guys might look at it and be like, what the hell is even that? But I was short on cable, so I have my fuse box sitting right here, pretty much almost where the location of the OEM filter box is. Well, it's more right here. This is where it sits. It's out of the way from the turbo, just right in front of the coilover. And I didn't have enough wire to run it all the way over to this spot. So this right here is literally the original harness, and that's that one piece I was telling you guys about. You crimp it to your wire. You can clamp it down on the original terminal end. You've got your one end running up to the fuse box and your other end running over to the starter. Starter or alternator, one of them. I think the starter. Anyways, I got this all wrapped with the plastic electric stuff. I just took everything apart and then taped all this up so there's no exposed metal. It looks goofy, but I'm telling you guys, for 2 years this has worked for me. Once it's all taped up, it looks pretty clean. You can't even tell anything's done to it. But yeah, if you have enough wire, you can run it all the way up into here, and then just continue out with your other wire running over to the starter. But that's how I did it. It's pretty simple like this. Looks kind of goofy, kind of funky, but this always gives you the option to reuse this terminal if you want to. So here's what I'm talking about. This is like a 3/4 inch, and this is like a, I don't know, 1/2 inch smaller. Just got it covered right there. Got this one on. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just tape these ends up. And as you guys can see, the reason I took this plastic off, this just gives me a little bit more wiggle room. Crap. Gives me a little bit more wiggle room. Once I get it all taped, I'm kind of maneuvering everything and getting it to fit around my turbo setup. And I've had no issues with this being taped up. I'm tucked in around right here somewhere. I've had plenty of room to get to the alternator, to the starter with this cable. And so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and tape that back up right now. So there it is. Got it all taped up right here. It looks pretty nice. I know all these wires are just kind of loose, looking all crusty and everything. But once I get the motor in, the turbo installed, and I get everything plugged in, that's when I start actually running and getting all my wires mounted down. And that mainly consists of getting all the exposed ends taped up and kind of just zip tied and bunched up together. But that's for later once we get the motor in. But anyways, that is how I relocated my battery. Gives you a whole bunch of room to run your intercooler piping into your turbo. So yeah, if you do decide to run your battery right here, obviously you can keep your spare tire, you can keep all your rugs in. I just am not, as you guys can see, but that's just my personal preference. So yeah, I hope that taught you guys a thing or two. Go ahead and drop that like, and I will catch you guys in the next video.